So this video is going to show you how to take apart an aircraft tire, whether that's a large or a small tire. The process is pretty much the same. So we'll talk about the procedures and condition of the tire. This one's not great, and any safety precautions. And then at the end, I'll show you how to balance a tire, basic way. First things first, the most critical part is to make sure there's absolutely no pressure in the tire. It could be very dangerous. It could explode. So here I have a valve core remover, and basically what you do is you screw it on, you screw the barrel down and then screw the top of it counterclockwise, and that removes the valve stem itself. So you can see here I just took it off, and there's the valve stem. That will make sure that there's no pressure holding inside the tire. So after that, we can safely move on to whatever we're going to be doing here. In this case, I'm taking out the through bolts. So this tire only has 3 through bolts, and when you take them off, just make note of any washers, make sure the bolt heads are in the right configuration, in the right direction. You just want to make sure you're putting everything back the way that you're supposed to. Of course, utilize the maintenance manual, whether that's the aircraft maintenance manual or the wheel manufacturer's maintenance manual. So now I'll place a tire in a bead breaker to break the seal. So sometimes they can be really stuck on there. You basically place it around the tire, the wheel half, and press down until it loosens up. You can go around the tire and then flip it around on the other side. Just don't ever place it on the wheel half itself. It can damage a critical area, being the bead seat area. So here we have our one wheel half. This is a typical construction of an aircraft tire with the 2 halves. It's called a split wheel assembly with 2 halves mostly the same size and the tire in the center. This tire specifically is a tube type tire, meaning the tube inside the tire holds all the pressure, which there is none right now. But if we were to have a tubeless tire, what would hold the pressure inside the wheel would be an O-ring between the 2 wheel halves. So you'd always want to make sure that that's in there and not damaged at all, or else you'll lose pressure. So now we'll take out the wheel bearings. So inside it's just a snap ring that you take out, and you can take that out with a flathead, or snap ring pliers are sometimes needed. I just used my snap ring pliers for leverage, but it's just a simple snap ring, a washer, a felt washer, another washer, and the wheel bearing itself. So I always line everything up in order of how I took it out to make sure it goes back in the same. But of course, I'm always referencing the maintenance manual as well. So we're just gonna get it cleaned up a little bit so that we can inspect further, and that's the assembly with the snap ring all intact. So I'm just going to clean off the inside where the bearing race is. So inside here, that silver piece where the bearing sits on is called a bearing race, and that's a 0 tolerance fit. So how they do it is actually they heat up the wheel half in an oven, and then they either freeze with liquid nitrogen or dry ice the metal bearing race, which I'm shining my light on now, and they pop it in, and then as they both come up to temperature, it stays put. So the bearing race is very critical to make sure that it's not damaged. So after cleaning off our bearing, we can do a full inspection. And the thing with these roller bearings here are any damage is really grounds for rejection. So if you see anything suspicious, overheated bearings, anything like that, replace it. So after we cleaned it off and dried it with shop air, we are going to lubricate the bearings before putting them in there. So make sure you're using the appropriate grease per the manufacturer's manual. This is a bearing packer tool. It's a very convenient, so you don't have to do it by hand. You still get messy, but you just place it over and then press down. And you're going to press down until the grease comes out of the top of the bearing. So you'll see it in a second where it kind of squeezes out. And that's how you know it's gotten everywhere. So you can see it kind of bubbled up. And now you know that it's fully lubricated and ready to go back into the wheel half onto the bearing race there. So we're just going to clean it up a little bit, but of course more is usually better when you're dealing with bearings because they deal with so much heat. So now we'll assemble it back the way we took it apart, as long as it was right in the manufacturer's manual. So our washer, our felt washer, our other washer, and then the snap ring at the end. And these types of snap rings, they can be a little slippery, especially dealing with grease, but it basically just gets snapped in there, and then you're good to go. I like to make sure it's fully seated, have someone else take a look at it, just because you don't want that thing coming out when the plane is taking off, you know. So now we're going to reassemble the tire here, and crucial part is always make sure that the valve stem is lined up with the red dot. So we have in this half of the wheel, the outboard half, you can see there's a hole for the valve stem, and we're going to place the valve stem over there, but you want to make sure that the red dot is lined up with the valve stem, because the red dot on the tire itself usually indicates the light spot of the tire, and the valve stem, of course, is a heavy part of the tire. So that's what we do. We want to line everything up so we can get the bolts all the way through. And once you have that set, you're good to go. Also, if this was a tubeless tire, you would make sure that your O-ring is between the two halves. And now I'm going to be assembling the 3 bolts that holds this tire together. So normally I tighten them on in a star pattern when there's more bolts, but there's only 3 here. So I'll just get all the bolts snugged down, and then I will get my torque wrench out, and we gotta make sure it's the correct torque. So here I think it's 100 inch-pounds, so you set your torque wrench and then make sure that you feel that click. So you torque all 3 of them in a star pattern as best you can with the 3 bolts. And then I don't have torque stripe right now, so I'm just putting some marker along the line so that you can tell if the nut or bolt slips, if it's been loose. So I just did it on both sides just in case, but you would put your torque stripe there so that you would be able to tell if anything was going awry. So now with all the bolts torqued to specification, we can install the valve stem back in so that the tire will hold pressure. So I'm just gonna drop it in there and then screw it down with the valve stem remover. This one isn't the safety remover, it's just your average valve stem tool. So I tighten it down just enough, not super crazy, put the cap back on, and now we're ready to fill it up with compressed air or nitrogen. And some planes use nitrogen if they fly at high altitudes because compressed air has a lot of moisture content, and we don't want that moisture to freeze at high altitudes.